Ladies and gentlemen, the Dildo Burger Prophecy says that the world will end on December 15, 2011. Now maybe they'll just have killed me by December 15, 2011. Or maybe, as I predicted in this video that you see on the screen behind me, which is proof that if you are more like Mike, you can predict the future, that this video, Obama is just one of many antichrists, 2 nukes, which explain to the populace of the planet Earth that there would be not 1 but 2 nuclear catastrophes. And Fukushima accomplishes that all by itself. But everybody forgot about the other nuclear catastrophe, that Korea set off an underground nuclear detonation without the approval of the world order, which is another nuclear catastrophe. So you have Fukushima, which means fuck you proper in English, that is killing us and your children and your children's children, 1 billion children at a time. And you have Korea, who set off another nuclear device, which proves that everything in this video is prophetic in nature. We are at the time of the final cut. And if you put the words final cut into the internet, you will come to a symbol that looks a little bit like this, that represents the final cut. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, because they too were prophetic in nature. Perhaps the greatest prophets that ever lived, even greater than Be Like Mike, because they have depicted every aspect of the final days in the final cut, almost to a letter. But moving past the greatest philosophers that ever lived is in fact proof in this video that 2 nuclear catastrophes occurred on Obama's watch. And you know I don't like to call him Obama. We like to call him Scumbama, because he made the man love in the limousine with the Mr. Larry Sinclair. Therefore, there was a lot of fluids being passed around, and we have named him or renamed him the Scumbama. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Larry Sinclair, the limo lover, is responsible for all kinds of new terminologies that you can learn for $999 in the school of Be Like Mike. But moving back to the prophetic nature of Michael Fazio, I have predicted that by December 15, 2011, that the economy of the United States of America, and in fact, more importantly, the $1 bill, which is shown here as what looks to be some kind of weird drawing, but in fact it is weird, because the third definition in the Webster's Unabridged Dictionary means godlike. And this is more godlike than anything you have ever seen before in your entire life in a public forum, because this is a perfect representation of the Ark of the Covenant. And that is one angel that appears on the end of the Ark of the Covenant. And this is the other angel that appears on the Ark of the Covenant. And in case you can't see that, let me show you. When you take that end of the $1 bill, which is really a picture of the seraphim that is outlined in red here. When you take the picture of the seraphim and fold it and roll it, whether it's colored in like this or not, you can see that it appears to be a creature-like entity that has the ability to fly via wings, which some people call a fleur-di-lis. It doesn't matter what you call it. On both sides of the Ark of the Covenant, depicted in red in this video, Obama is one of one of many antichrists, 2 nukes. In this video, it shows you the seraphim on the reverse of the $1 bill. And that is how, in history, when you are like Mike, you will be like Mike and be remembered in history as a prophet. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Not a prophet as great as the Floyd, the Floyd, the Pink Floyd. Not as great as Pink Floyd, but almost as great as Pink Floyd, because I am the person on earth that has shown you that this is a pictograph of the Ark of the Covenant, and that when you turn the bill upside down and you see this entity with the nuclear detonation over his head, that represents Fukushima. And if you go to the school of Be Like Mike for $999, you too can be like Mike and be able to prophesize about the end of the world, which, as I have previously stated, is in fact occurring because of the scumbomber who uses his asshole as a head, who has a silver spoon shoved inside his head because he uses his asshole as a head. And when he uses his asshole as a head, shit comes out. And then the silver spoon is there to catch the shit and refurbish the shit back into his head. And that's why some people call him an asshole, ladies and gentlemen. See, those are things that you didn't know, that now you know, because it falls under the heading of Things I Know by Michael Fazio. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And for $999, you too can be like Mike, or be more like Mike for an additional $999. Now, the people that are destroying this country, $1 billion and now $1 trillion at a time, are represented by the series of pictographs that you see on this box and the Georgia Guidestones. The Georgia Guidestones, created in 1984, under the guise of some kind of prophetic nature. However, the word GEO, or the letters GEO, represent the first three letters of the word George. You think that's just a coincidence? But let's move on further. FEMA and the FEMA camps that were created 1984, the company called GEO was created by a guy named George, whose name begins with GEO. And then you have George Orwell, who predicted the end of the world in 1984. Well, maybe he was just predicting the beginning of the end of the world. Like I predicted 2 nuclear catastrophes, and they occurred Fukushima style, which means fuck you proper. But either way, the terminology of GEO, aka the Georgia Guidestones, GEO, if you put it in Google, is the name of the company that represents the only company on the planet Earth that makes FEMA camps. 1984, George Orwell, GEO, George. 1984, George Guidestones. 1984, prisoner of war camps. The book, 1984, it's all part of a prophetic nature, a series of events that coagulate and to prove that the letters GEO and the year 1984, the Georgia Guidestones, and the fact that the FEMA camps are created by a company who was owned by a man named George, of all names, that was initially formulated in the year 1984. Ladies and gentlemen, we're fucked. They're going to kill us all. And well, they should. There's too many fucking people on this planet. However, I don't like the methodology in which they're selecting the people to die next. They should take normal, rational people like me and place us high on the sperm donor charts so that at least my progeny could live on forever. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pissed off because they're not taking my sperm. Yay! 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 Nay! 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 They're not taking my sperm. Sperm that can prove that there is prophecy or the ability to prophesize in this world. And they're neglecting my sperm. And I can't even send it to them because they'll take offense if they get it in the mail. Now, that's probably more information than you wanted to know. So at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know, this all falls under the heading of Things I Know by Michael Fazio, and or the end of this world, which is going to occur by the year 2011, on the date of December 15th, when the world currency ends, ladies and gentlemen. The United States currency collapses. The words "In God We Trust" are removed from the $1 bill. Currency collapses. No more God on the bill. No more entity that professes the word God in the history of the world. And effectively the world ends. And from there, it's all downhill. Ladies and gentlemen, today's dissertation is brought to you by the Be Like Mike School and the Be More Like Mike School. For $999, you too can be like Mike. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I need to get a bigger fucking camera.